Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm fatigued, but I will never see another winter like this again. So I am embracing every dendrite. I'm looking at every piece of grapple. I am just taking in every face shot, because this is a time and a place in a lifetime that I want to preserve.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Nils, and this is the Backcountry podcast, a show aimed at providing insight into the outdoor industry by interviewing people who operate within it. Today, we're going to be talking with none other than Craig Gordon. If you're familiar with the Utah Avalanche Center, you've probably seen Craig and his iconic top knot, keeping the Utah community updated on all things Avalanche. But Craig's relationship with Avalanche stewardship started long before the advent of social media. It even predates the internet itself, which makes Craig one of the most well-respected and reputable characters in the realm of Avalanche safety. Buckle up, folks, because this is going to be a good show.
Rock on, man. Thanks
Craig.
for that. Probably keyword character.
Character. Big character.
Thanks, my man. Thanks for having me. What an honor. Thanks, everybody, for being part of this, for being part of our amazing community. And yeah, super rad to be here at backcountry.com headquarters. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, totally, man. We're really excited to have you. And weather-wise, we're kind of transitioning into fall right now, and I like that you showed up maybe more on brand than any guest we've had on the show in full outerwear.
Totally.
For anyone listening in, you want to give us some context on that?
Absolutely. And don't let the outerwear kind of fool you. You know, I still have my board shorts on underneath my ski pants, because you never know what this season could lead into. But yeah, I checked the weather before coming over here from the city of Salt into Park City, and it's like, man, we got this nice little cold front rolling in, a little white rain at Parley's Summit, and probably expecting like the first full blast of winter, you know. So these are like the building blocks to our winter snowpack. Maybe take a step out towards the ledge, but not jump off of it. That I bet you we have some early season turns on low angle grassy slopes in the morning if you're with me.
All right, I follow. And, you know, I couldn't help pick up that you touched on, you might be wearing board shorts, and you actually grew up a surfer. In New Jersey, right?
In New Jersey, of all places, you know. So yeah, grew up surfing, Long Beach Island, New Jersey. Really cool place. Barrier Island, 3 miles out to sea, 18 miles long. And it was kind of like not growing up in, you know, your typical New Jersey fashion. It was more like a Santa Cruz kind of vibe, you know. It was really low key, pretty rad little place to grow up. And I got into skiing as well as surfing, and kind of augmented those 2 seasons. Sent myself here to Utah in a little ski vacation with a ski group from northern New Jersey, 1979, and got here, and it's like dumping, and one day it clears up. I'm at the top of the old Collins lift, and I see a couple of ski patrollers out placing explosives, skiing powder, and I'm like, boom, I'm coming back to do that. And yeah, man, I kind of, you know, put everything together to come back, and under a loosely veiled guise of higher education, made it all come together.
Okay, yeah, you had a ruse that you might come out here for college with other anticipations.
Indeed, yeah, which actually quickly segues into getting a nighttime job as a dishwasher at Snowbird, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be I'll be able to leverage this, balance this. I'll go to school, I'll get a degree, I'll ski a couple days a week. I mean, 3 days into this, and I'm like, no, man, I'm going to ski school. You know? And that was sort of my jam, you know? And I did have it planted in my mind, like, okay, the people out skiing powder on the mountain are the ski patrol, and then the guys and gals who are really skiing powder are the snow safety people, and they're the avalanche people. And it was like, boom, just sort of mind-blowing experience at that moment. All clicked, yeah.
So then what were your first sort of stepping stones? You know, you come out here, you're a dishwasher, and then it seemed like you mapped it out pretty quickly as to how you could make it work out. What was did you go straight into ski patrolling then?
Well, I did a couple of years, a lot of grease under my fingernails and kind of making the summer thing work for the winter thing.
Yep.
So fortunately, in my travels, I was pretty skilled at heavy equipment. And so I did that summer hustle.
Operating heavy equipment?
Operating heavy equipment.
What's your favorite piece of heavy equipment?
Big excavator.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
a digger.
Quick
Digging
aside.
kind of
Anyways,
guy.
please continue.
Yeah, but very finesseful. Kind of really, that was my jam. And so I did that for a couple of years. I still kept my winter job as a dishwasher, but realized maybe Snowbird wasn't the place for me to start. And I had a great suggestion from a patroller at Snowbird who said, you know what, go over to Big Cottonwood Canyon, maybe a Brighton or a Solitude, and get a little experience under your belt. Definitely want to get your EMT, get some medical skills, and come back here after a couple of years. And I started patrolling at Brighton in 1985, and it was just it was a good fit, man. It was a small mom and pop shop. Couple of double chairs, there was, the big thing they had going on there was a triple chair at Snake Creek. Wow. And, that was sort of like, wow, this is really something here. And I totally dug it. And there was a really good vibe there. And as I was progressing in my years at Brighton, I'm into it about year 3. And I'm like, I should probably go back to school and, maybe get a little bit of concrete higher education underneath my belt, at least get a degree. Now, I've got to preface this by saying school was never my jam. I was the guy that was...
You're not a bookworm. I would not have guessed that.
Not really a bookworm, no. But I was like always, I was the person just scratching my way out of school, easily distracted. I wanted to get on with life. And in my course of life, I had a vision of what I wanted to do. And it was like, man, I was going to blow the doors down all along the way and get to that end point. And I got to this juncture, I'm about 3 years into patrolling, and it's like, wow, maybe there's something else out there that I have not had the touch point life experience with. I go back to the U, and I'm taking a couple of psychology classes, a statistics class. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I can't even balance my own checkbook. And along the way, I take this amazing class, and it's called Snow Dynamics and Avalanche Forecasting. And the teacher is a guy named Peter Lev. And he is a UDOT forecaster in Little Cottonwood Canyon. And first couple of minutes of the class, he talks about his resume. And he had been a forecaster with Mike Weagley Heli-Ski. And he's now in Little Cottonwood Canyon. And he's talking about this whole resume that he has and this portfolio. I'm like, man, you can make a living as an avalanche forecaster, not just as a ski patroller, not as a snow safety person, but as an avalanche forecaster. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. So go through that class. It's the only class in college I ever aced. It was the only class I was always early to and always stayed late. And truly, you know how in your school career and in this journey, maybe you can identify a handful of people that changed your life, and this was one of the people in my life that totally changed my life. And I was like, wow, I went back into the world of snow, like just, it was like I was at a sweat lodge, and I go fully cleansed and even more energy. And it was a perfect time because as I started to advance a little bit more at Brighton, there was also kind of this cruxy time when they started going through a bit of an expansion. Their terrain possibilities, into the Clayton side of the resort, expanded. I was right place, right time. I was working my ass off, and I was rewarded for it by being able to establish an actual snow safety program, an avalanche forecast program, and it was just like remarkably rewarding, So I kind of saw the vision. Somebody helped to give me the confidence that it took. And man, I was just off to the races. It was really a remarkable time. And for me, being part of something that was growing, it was super romantic. I was living at Brighton. I was counting every snowflake and dendrite and cataloging pieces of grapple. And I mean, fully romantic time. It was really rad.
Wow. That's crazy. That's incredible to hear. And I mean, it also makes me kind of want to talk about like, what did snow safety look like at the time? Because it is a science, and it's kind of, I'm sure, seen in the last 10, 20, 50, definitely 100 years, a large knowledge arc take place of like what snow safety is and what did that landscape kind of look like back then? And then we'll sort of contrast that into how things have started to evolve.
Have evolved, yeah. So, at that time, and even to still, but as a moving average, the simplicity of the factors that create avalanche hazard, I mean, those are never going to change. I mean, you've got steep terrain, you've got snowpack, weak layers, all of the weather components. And I mean, we can dive into that. We can go from 3-chord rock and roll and the truth, or we can dive into Thelonious Monk and Charlie Parker and talk the nuances of jazz. But where the rubber hits the road is in the simplicity. And at that time, at Brighton, it was really simple. I mean, you would have a basic weather forecast. You knew the mountain pretty well. You knew things that would load, would get stripped with wind. I would check in with the cat crew at dark 30, see what was going on the mountain. And you'd always pull in on these nuances, just like a plow driver out on the road. And it's like, it's really hard to push. The wind is blowing so intensely, I can't even see the front of my hood. I can't even see where my blade is. So you could pick up on these nuances. You could pick up on this storm raged in, there was a break in the middle of the night, and now it's picking up again. And so we can interpret that as forecasters, as backcountry users. I mean, this is a big piece of information. And not much has changed, that's still like that. Those are the boots on the ground stuff with all of the technology we have, all the instrumentation. Those eyes that are out there, especially during the night or during a storm or when we're not out there, man, that is money. That's gold. Because that is your first line of observation, unless you're out there, So I'd talk to the cat drivers, we'd come up with a plan, make the phone calls, go up to the explosives cache, and then you'd be like, kind of in the snow globe inside of a snowcat at 4:30 in the morning, which was always pretty entertaining, because here I would be on like my second cup of like ridiculously strong coffee, that like Thiokol would use for rocket fuel, and it's like here I am. I mean, I'm just jacked, and I would be super stoked about doing the control work and getting out and powder skiing, that kind of thing. And you're sort of on the tail end of a cat driver's shift.
Different vibes sometimes.
Yeah, right? And they would be like, oh man, another night of pushing this around. And, they would sort of be worn out, and I am just ramping my day up. So it would be kind of a fun, juxtaposition of personalities and energy. And so we'd go up, get the explosives, come down, make those up with a couple of people, go through kind of what the morning would look like, and then go out and do our routes, and that's really, for a young Avalanche professional, that is so rad, because you're getting to test your theories, you're getting to figure it out, see what's going on, and then, you hustle, you work your butt off, you get the mountain open before 9 o'clock, maybe you get a couple of quick powder laps in, hot laps, and then, kind of go to work, and or go to the second part of the day, of maintaining the mountain, or maybe, running some recs or helping folks out who have been injured. So it was a very cool time for me, really romantic time. But I also realized that, that sort of in a smaller resort kind of has a shelf life. And in the mornings after control work, I would always call into the UAC, into the Utah Avalanche Center. And, at that time, it was a really small operation. And, you'd know exactly who you were talking to and knew exactly what that forecast was, because the only way we could interact was with a phone line.
Yeah.
So you would call the 801-364-1581 and just wait. It's like, oh, wow, it's Tom Kimbrough. It's Bruce Tremper. It'd be like, oh, my God, this is amazing. It's like, it's Dave Grohl on the other side, the Foo Fighters, I would just be super stoked just to hear that. And even more psyched to talk to those folks in the morning, because, it was like, that crew to me was the epitome of this really well-oiled, well-respected machine. And it's like, man, one day I hope that I could weave into that crew. So it was always great to not only hear that voice, but to talk to that voice on the other end of the line and call in my observations. And this is what I'm seeing. And it was always very inviting to call in and to talk to somebody. And that's sort of what our community is all based on. And that's from generation to generation to generation. And I think that's really the most rad part of our ski and our snow and our snowboard and our collective backcountry community.
Yeah, totally. You touched on something that I thought was really cool there for a second, and that was sort of how welcoming it was to call in. And I feel like for myself, I operate as a professional backcountry snowboarder. And so a lot of times we've gotten some formal trainings, and then there's a lot of days that we're just kind of maybe in more remote areas on our own, trying to make our own calls. And
sure.
I'm getting at here is the example that has been set for us by, people at the UAC and guides that I've worked with, that this community is so, there's like no ego in a way, because the consequences are obviously so high. And what that creates is like a lot of really authentic, cool personalities that if I get to learn from someone, a guide or someone at UAC, the exchange is unlike that of traditional school, because I feel like you just have so many authentic people that are really like mindful and polite, and they might not have all the answers, and they'll tell you like, oh, I don't know, that is a good question, or like, well, it does depend. It's just sort of a testament to the community of Avalanche forecasters as a whole. And have you felt like that has been kind of a constant personality that you've experienced working at places like the UAC and everything like that? Like a lot of the personalities, you're like, I vibe with you, man. Like,
yes, yeah, I would say that, the snow community here is very welcoming, but also pretty critical. And I think that, the welcoming as a community, we want to share that information. And we certainly don't want anybody to go through the school of hard knocks, right? Because we've all been there. And it's like, man, you shouldn't have to go through a sufferfest. So let me help you out here. But also, I think that this community polices itself pretty well. and is critical in a good way and constructively critical when it sees that things aren't going in the right direction. And I like that. I like that because it keeps a narrow scope into allowing us to be this very legitimate community. You know, and I often relate this a lot to surfing, and that the one big
culture
difference.
Of surfing,
I got to kind of come full circle here, and the one big difference is that, of course, the ocean lets you know immediately who is boss. Really, any moving body of water does, whether it's a stream, a river, but the ocean in particular is remarkably intimidating. And when you roll up to a break and you hear the pounding in your chest, and it's like, holy crap, that's a lot of volume. I could get seriously worked there. But snow, as we know, is soft, it's fluffy, it's in your face, it's over your head, it's so inviting. How can this hurt me? And this community that comes around in the mountains, I think, realizes that there is a big difference in these environments. But the harshness at the end of the day when things go sideways is every bit as harsh, if not more so. And I'm stoked that our community has this conduit to say, hey, maybe if you're getting into this, maybe you want to check out UtahAvalancheCenter.org. They got great classes. Take a know before you go class. It'd be the same as, hey, before heading out into the water, learn how to swim, learn about the tides, don't be a kook.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the same holds true in our community. And that is the beauty of the UAC, is like, there is this apolitical platform that provides free avalanche education, gets your toes in the water. You learn how to paddle around. We have Backcountry 101s, the next step. I mean, it's like a true progression. You take a Backcountry 101, you have a 4-hour evening, you have an 8-hour on the snow. It's like rad. Then you can have a couple of years under your belt before either you take a Backcountry 201 or a level 1. But there is a solid progression with that. And I think it's really rad that platform's available, that conduit's available, rather than have more of a negative connotation of, hey, kook, get out of the water. Yep. I mean, how uninviting is that? What's more, what's more inviting is, hey, I can relate to you because I was there. And here's an easier way that, you can go about, you can enjoy this amazing snow we have, the rad mountains, this remarkable community. And at the end of the day, you're coming home safe to your family.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
It's great. And I mean, that architecture, that conduit, if you want to describe in that manner of being new and then becoming knowledgeable and safe in avalanche terrain. You've been around, from my understanding, for a lot of the development that took place and what that landscape looks like.
For a minute or two.
Right?
Yeah.
And first, like, how did you first get involved with the UAC?
Yeah.
And then what was sort of, because your role has really evolved in that involved teacher aspect, and I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. So as I was kind of wrapping up at Brighton and looking for something different, I had a great offer with a startup heli ski operation in the Uintas. And so I did that for a couple of years. Realized, I loved the snow part of it. I loved all of that. I loved the mountains, different snowpack. The Uintas are like more of a Colorado Continental-esque snowpack. But also realized now the heli thing, that's not my jam. And fortunately, had kept in very close contact with the UAC, and an opportunity arose as a snowmobile avalanche educator. And while I didn't think that was going to be my end all, it was definitely a foot in the door. And so I started with the UAC in the 1999-2000 season as an avalanche educator for snowmobilers. And much like I saw when I was at Brighton, when I was at Brighton, it was a resort that was very snowboard friendly. And the snowboard skier interface at that time was not the most inviting environment. And there were, different clashes of sorts, but the biggest clash were young riders going into the backcountry without gear and without even basic AVI knowledge. And I saw that as an opportunity as a patrol person and as a snow person. It's like, now let's pull that community into our fold and into our orbit. And I started hosting just basic avalanche awareness classes at Brighton. And it was a really big hit. And, so to go from that into a snowmobile educator role, even though I'm not a sled head or in that regard, a motorized person, I saw it more as an equal opportunity educator. And it's like, hey, man, these people love the snow just like I do. So rather than discriminate and, not offer that opportunity, I am going to roll into that position and use that opportunity, leverage that opportunity to get the messaging out. And, it was sort of the first in this state. We had a grant from the Division of Recreation, State Parks, to provide this. And a colleague of mine, Eric Trembeth, who is the forecaster for the LaSalle's now, he and I spearheaded this. And to say that it got off to kind of a rocky start is an understatement, man. We had to sort of, we invented it as we went.
Okay, yeah.
And so you got to put yourself back in this time of, and you mentioned it in the beginning of our conversation of, media is like totally in its infant stage, so as far as dynamic presentations, I mean, like we are still in slideshows, and like Kodak carousels, and that kind of thing. And then to get any sort of content that was snowmobile applicable was like really hard to do. And again, I'm coming from a skier background. So we quickly got up to speed. Mid part of that season, my mentor, the best boss ever, Bruce Tremper, said, hey, we've got some extra money. There's this black hole in the middle of the state, the Manti Skyline, Fairview, Huntington Canyons, tons of snowmobilers there. Recent avalanche fatalities there. That's a place that could use a part-time avalanche forecast. And Eric and I are like, totally. We are down with this. We're up to the task. And you got to remember, so we're still trying to get our sled skills up to snuff.
Let alone back then, the snowmobiles were anything but backcountry travel ready.
Yeah, right. So, and the technology was not only snowmobiles, but skis. So like snowmobiles at that time, much like skis, were meant to do nothing but dive into deep powder and not come out. So it wasn't like this floaty fun thing. It was like this divey submarine. That was super frustrating. And also at that time, skis are just about this wide, so it's like, wow, 65 underfoot. Wow, that's fast. That's fast. So we're doing that. We have plastic boots and stuff, but here we are, Eric and I, like super granola, redneck hippies going out to teach sledders about avalanches. And we started to produce a weekend forecast. And I mean, this is before there's like a website, so it's a phone line, and then the next year it's a website, and you're doing this on your 386 IBM, and it's like, oh wow, I mean, putting pictures, embedding a picture or a video, you might as well be talking like another language.
Getting someone on the moon.
Yes, exactly. You would have a better chance of putting somebody on the moon. So we're figuring this all out as we go. And so that's sort of, the bridge from one part of my career to the next, but realizing along the way that education, that is where the rubber hits the road. Yeah, you can have a forecast, but if you don't have this core of, well, I need to have basic avalanche education under my belt, because once I go to the forecast, I don't even understand this language. And you also need to have that education at a really tangible level. 3-chord rock and roll. That's something we can all appreciate. And so that had been my approach into those couple of early years. And then really the epiphany with all things avalanche education forecast related is the day after Christmas of the 03-04 season.
Okay.
And it's December 26th. And there is a colossal storm that starts on 23rd, 24th, moves into Christmas, and then just goes gangbusters in the Salt Lake Valley. Big southwest winds, big snow. We had already had a fairly well-established snowpack, but it's an early season snowpack that's faceted. And I mean, it's structurally challenged. Big winds, big snow, big water. And the Salt Lake Valley is pretty much paralyzed. There's like 30 inches of snow in the Salt Lake Valley. Just getting up from my place at that time in Holiday into the foothills to ski the foothills, is a monumental task, right? I mean, it's a colossal task just to get there. And resorts, it's all they can do to keep open because of the big wind, because of the big snow. In Provo Canyon, which is just getting pasted, at Sundance, it's all they can do to stay open that day. They've got a couple of power outages. It's sort of crazy town. And in the early to mid portion of the afternoon, the resort closes down. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I mean, we can't fight this, right? Yeah. So they close down, and 3 groups of people, they don't even know each other, they total about 21, decide to drive up the road towards Aspen Grove Trailhead to, hike up and ski down, hike up, ski down, ride down, board down, whatever it is. And as they're engaged in this activity, 3 of the largest slide paths off of Mount Timpanogos converge into one, avalanche naturally. And at any one time, a handful of people from these 3 groups are buried, spit back out, buried, spit back out. At the end of the day, 3 young men don't come home to their families. I mean, it is a catastrophic event. Mm-hmm. The avalanche is huge. The debris field is football fields wide. This thing is massive.
Do you know what size? It would 4 or 5 or something?
I would say probably, it's a solid class 3.
Yeah.
So, but the volume behind this thing is it is catastrophic. And so, of course, it's big local news.
Yeah.
And then it turns into big national news because of the time of year it is. It's right after Christmas. And the day after, 1 young man is found. A week after, another young man is found. And it isn't till Easter that the last of the young men is found. So it's kind of a continuing thing. And with each person being found, it kind of continues the story. Our crew heads into a staff meeting after Bruce Tremper went and investigated it and interfaced with all of the SAR teams and came back and mentioned, I mean, this thing is unreal. I am with the Avalanche Center. This is my third winter. And I guess naively, I'm saying, well, it seems like we should have an avalanche education program that goes into the high schools. Maybe if this crew just had some basic rudimentary understanding of avalanches, knew to call 801-364-1581, or knew to go to UtahAvalancheCenter.org, maybe somebody would have pumped the brakes. And Bruce looked back at me and in a super sincere moment, and he said, well, we've tried that, but nobody wants to listen to, some boring science-y thing from old people going into a high school auditorium. And I was like, well, exactly. So why don't we have some really dynamic thing? It's like a rock and roll show. And there's going to be a video and there's going to be... And he looks at me and he says, okay, you find the money and that's your project. And I was like, wow, you're going to challenge a guy from New Jersey to find the money? That's easy. No problem. Hey, I know exactly where the money is. I know where the money's hidden. So I take that on as a task. I take that on as a challenge. And that summer of, now we're into the summer of 2004 for the upcoming 2004-2005 season. I go out, I look for some partners, I look for some video footage, and Bruce was awesome about this, and he helped all along the way. But to bring this full circle into our Backcountry.com family, it was actually Backcountry.com that was one of the first true believers of this. And it was Bob Merrill. Yeah. He was one of the first believers in this.
Yeah, and Backcountry Bob.
Backcountry Bob. And Bob and I have known each other for years and years and made the New Jersey connection and that kind of thing. And I'm rolling out of a forecast from the UNAs one day, and I stop in. It was after you guys moved out of basements and garages and into your first strip mall experience in Heber, just off of Highway 40, that I catch Bob, and I said, hey, look, dude, here's what I got going on. Here's a vision. And he's like, we were thinking about the same sort of thing. I said, I got you covered, man. The train has already left the station. And Backcountry was on board like that.
No kidding.
And realized, this is a great partnership. This is a great fit. From there, knowing that I had to create a video, TGR was the next stop along the way. And TGR was, at this time, avalanche footage is so rare,
Yeah.
But they're out there and they're on really on the cutting edge of filming their athletes and being in the right place at the right time when they're triggering slides and capturing that. And the crew at TGR and the Jones brothers were like, no, you know what? We know the UAC, and we know your mission, and we know your street cred, and we trust this. And we will trust giving this footage to you. So it's like, oh my gosh, man, I am capturing lightning in a bottle. And this is an amazing time. And it's super romantic, right? Because this is a time where the vision that I have is like, there has never been anything like this before.
Yeah.
And we are going to blow the doors off of avalanche education. And the vision was to have this a rad 10 or 12-minute video followed by a high-energy PowerPoint, and it's like, this is the basic stuff you need to know about avalanche education. this is how you can go into the backcountry and not die and come home safely and enjoy this amazing environment that we have in our backyard. So we put it all together, and I found a couple of not only sympathetic ears within the school system, but also really strong touch points. And one of them was a vice principal at American Fork High School. And one of his students was one of the young men who was killed. And, oh, man, it was just a powerful, powerful moment. And that whole summer I had spent, calling teachers, calling vice principals, rallying the support. And I made an amazing touch point with this gentleman. And he says, yeah, I will support this because I don't want any community to experience that. No. And it was a remarkable time, and he helped to shepherd this along. And he helped to open up doors, and we had this fairly tight package to deliver and to show a couple of schools, and to show a couple of folks from the Board of Education, this thing is pretty cool and it's really unique, and I am here to share the Avalanche gospel. And they trusted. Let me preach. I'm preaching this, and they trusted me with that. And not to say that this went smoothly out of the gates by any means, because some of this is new technology, and also bringing student bodies together, where you would have 1,000 people, 800 people, 1,200 people in a high school auditorium was unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, unreal. And there were glitches, with how things would interface. I mean, it was this was the first time this was being done. But you could also see that there was a level of connection in this audience that it was holy
We're hitting
crap,
something here.
This is pretty remarkable. And so, that was the real turning point, not only in my career, I think, really weaving ourselves into the community, but also not only reestablishing, but definitely establishing the Utah Avalanche Center as not only the flagship Avalanche Center for forecasts, but for cutting-edge education. And that was a remarkable time. And yeah,
That's
really
incredible.
Time.
Yeah, I mean, you've gone on, the path at UAC that you all have forged over the last 2 decades now has established some of the most, from a consumer side myself, some of the most turnkey, digestible knowledge tools I've been able to find.
Thanks for that.
It really does go to show that you struck a chord. And I think, I got to be a part of that. Were you the guy giving the presentation? Because I'm sure that had something to do with the clicking as well.
Which made it really unique. I was the guy giving the presentations.
Yeah.
And when I created this, I didn't want to bring any more of a workload to our staff, who are already maxed out. And I said, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue forecasting. I'm going to bust all of these talks out, but I'm also going to leverage Avalanche professionals in our community. So that means ski patrollers, guides, super solid people. So we pulled that all together. And really, I'll tell you, one of the big impacts we had on the local community was at Treasure Mountain Middle School in Park City High School, who were like, no, we are living in a snow belt. And there's avalanche terrain, that surrounds us. This needs to be part of our curriculum. And it was rad to get that local support.
Yeah.
And it was also rad to be part of that framework, those building blocks. And man, I'll be honest with you, I'm cranking out forecasts. I'm rolling with 50, 55, 60 know before you go talks in a season. doing like late afternoon, early evening handoffs of this little kit that had a PowerPoint projector in it, and connections and all of this stuff. And we would do these crazy little handoffs in like Centerville for the Snow Basin Patrol, somewhere in Provo that the Sundance crew would take this off, and it totally looked like some sort of drug deal going down, with this kid in dark alleys and stuff, right? But man, we were sharing Avalanche education.
Yeah.
And it was amazing that the professional community came to support
showed up
this vision. And it's like, absolutely, we know it's imperative. And a lot of that crew were also part of Wasatch Backcountry Rescue and knew that on the front end, that a little avalanche education would go a long way so that they're not picking up the back end. So they are not the janitors cleaning up the mess at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's where it felt like such a cohesive time and a real change in the paradigm of how we deliver our message, how we teach avalanche classes, and then, like you say, kind of like this bigger sphere of the impact that we have on the community.
Yeah.
And I mean,
completely.
It's pretty rad time.
Yeah, I'd say it's super rad time. And we're heading into the 2024 season now.
Yeah.
We've, it's been 2 decades since that 2004 kind of aha season. What does the current landscape of UAC look like now as far as educational tools go, and even just like what this fall is looking like for us as well?
Yeah. One of the things that I think that we've really been able to utilize, to capitalize, to have a really solid community connection with are nearly real-time videos. And that came about. Trent Meisenheimer and I were stomping around in the Uintas. And it was in the 2011-2012 season. And it's a time when GoPros were just kind of becoming popular. Most of the GoPro footage was of athletes, was of a singular, I'm doing this activity. And we turned that around and turned that into, hey, this is what the snowpack is doing. And the 2011-2012 season was really curious. It started off quite robust. It dried out. We got a little rain crust on top of our pre-existing snowpack. It was a November 11th event, November 13th that year, which was a Saturday, of course. Turns into this really wild day in Upper Little Cottonwood Canyon because there's a slab, there's a weak layer, there's a slick bed surface, and a lot of close calls.
Perfect.
Yeah, also turns into a fatality. So kind of the writing is on the wall, and then it dries out, and the snowpack turns into a complete faceted gong show. And Trent and I are out in the Uintas along Wolf Creek Pass, and we're just sort of filming stuff, and we remotely trigger a slide, and we're there. And I said, hey, man, let's record this. So we go through the layers, and we're like, hey, heads up. There's a storm coming in. This is going to be a sketchy snowpack. And we take that, we're not really sure what we're going to do with it, because the means of sharing this in a social media conduit, just sort of aren't there yet, but we're trying to figure it out. And as we do, I send a clip out to the news. And boom, immediately we are getting just bombarded. Like, this is amazing. You guys are out there and this is nearly real time. It's like, yeah, this was this afternoon. This is the heads up. And we saw that moment, like, this thing can be used to give people a heads up. This is what's going to go down. These are the current conditions. Hey, this is what you should be planning on. And it was pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
And jump forward week and a half, 2 weeks later, and Trent and I are back out, and it's right after a storm cycle, and now there's a slab on top of this weak layer. And as we're traipsing around from about 200 feet away, we remotely trigger this monster of a slab. And it's a couple football fields wide. It's about 6 to 8 feet deep, heavily wind-loaded slope. And I'm like, oh my gosh, man, let's film this and go through the layers. And we do the same thing. We send it out to the media, and they are just like blown away. It is like a reporter on the scene.
Yeah.
And
it's like that hurricane reporter.
Oh, totally. I mean?
Yeah.
Right. It's like Jim Cantori in Thunder Snow, And I mean, he's just losing his mind over the Thunder Snow. And I'm losing my mind because it's like, these are the layers. And this is amazing that we're able to take this information, we're able to get it out into the public purview. And that's this next big real turning point into where we're at now. With Instagram, I mean, you have nearly real-time reporting. You can help to use a lot of the mediums out there to not only get information out, but the bigger picture, the more rewarding picture for our community is to save lives. That is this big wedge of the pie, but I also want to give people the information to go out and get after it. Because not every day are we going to be hiding under the beds, and we shouldn't be.
No.
We should be able to know when we roll up to the surf break. Those fins out in the water? Well, some of those are shark fins, rather. And at this other break, those are dolphin fins. And it's like, okay, the shark-infested waters, yeah, that looks super epic. Where the dolphins are, yeah, that's kind of, maybe waist high, but it's still clean. Oh, why don't we go over and swim with the dolphins for a while? These sharks, they're migrating, right? They're going to be out of here soon enough. And so we go surf with the dolphins. We let the sharks migrate out.
Yep.
Some seasons, they hang around all year. Other seasons,
they don't even come up.
Exactly. That's really the winter that we want. We want another designer winter. And looking forward into this winter, of course, we always have great classes going on. UtahAvalancheCenter.org, your one-stop shop for all things Avalanche. Every first Saturday of November, we've got our annual Utah Snow and Avalanche workshop that comes up. This year will be the 16th year. And, unlike our fundraiser where there's lots of high fives and air hugs and great bands, and we get our community together and a community party, USAW is geared more to getting our heads wrapped around the snow. And what it is, it's a day's worth of all you can eat everything Avalanche. It's an Avalanche buffet. So 15-minute presentations, 5-minute Q&A. And it rolls all day long at the DeJuria Center. It's a really rad event where we look back at weather factors from the previous year, what things look like in the upcoming year. Things that we're working on at the Utah Avalanche Center. We've got different types of tech check opportunities, medical dissertations, some of the things that we really need to be prepared for. And then boots on the ground, real people stories. Not only close calls, but hey, I was super prepared. This is how my crew saved my life. And also, since I think the way we learn is through stories, storytelling is a big part of this.
It's so valuable.
Totally.
Isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's something, having, not to interrupt you on all the information, but yeah, the importance of the story, if you want to look at it that way. And I think especially when you are, there's value in a story to sell products, right? Like that's the kind of world I operate in. But like
absolutely,
you're in a way creating and selling educational tools and for humans to digest that in like a, I don't know, story aspect or anything with like the tier of character that you have makes it so much more interesting and digestible. You know?
Yeah. And think that since the beginning of time, I mean, stories were the way that we shared information. So, Org is around the campfire, and he's trying to explain like that thing with the big teeth, is going to rip you apart. He's not going up to charts and diagrams and spreadsheets. He's like, no, that's no good. Right? And it's like, right, so that's an easy story. And that is, I think, the best way that we can express that. So not only do we have a recreational USAW, we also have a pro saw, and they're separated by a couple of days. And the USAW, I mean, is super, super tangible, very relatable to our high-end recreation group. And I'll tell you something, this crew that gets out on the snow here is so informed, so on top of it, so knows where to go on dangerous days, so knows the type of terrain to avoid. And USAW is not some basic, hey, you spell avalanche, A-V-A-L-A-N-C-H-E, there's an E on the end. No, I mean, this is going to be high-level stuff. And the stories, I think, are a way that we are able to express this information through our community, through an experiential type of thing, where somebody in an audience can say, I could see myself doing that. Oh, crap, I've effed up that way before. So I want that high-level information to come through to people, and then the pro component of it is geared more for our ski patrols, our forecasters, guides, DOT, that kind of thing. So that's a little bit more of a complicated discussion, a complicated language, but in either venue, it is going to be super tangible. Everything comes home like, oh, I can use this. And so that's what that's been geared towards. And USAW, ProSaw, I mean, it's a remarkable event. So yeah, I invite all of your viewers, listeners, people from other planets, other galaxies, definitely join us. It's a rad event.
That's awesome. That, it's, I think, really goes to show the continuous effort, right, of the UAC and you guys. And just kind of the collaborative motion you all hold to just really try, forecast to incredible lengths, but also educate to even greater lengths. And, there's so much value in that I appreciate, and thanks, everyone else, man, I'm sure really appreciates too.
Thanks. Yeah. The workshops, I think, are amazingly valuable. And it's also something I feel that we give back to our community. And it's super imperative to me that we have a really solid, well-educated community, because then we are able to help connect the dots with everything else we got going on.
Yeah.
And it's this community's like no other. Other avalanche centers don't have, I think, this unique relationship. And granted, geographically, we got it going on here. I mean, you've got this ginormous city next to an amazing mountain range that gets incredible snow. And, when you look geographically at other areas, I mean, Seattle, yeah, you're a minute or two from the mountains. Colorado, I mean, your airport's in Nebraska. Come on. So these other things, man, it's hard to get around. Our uniqueness of how tight this is physically, I think, has also given us an amazing opportunity to have a very tangible touch point with our community. And that is just not a geographic gift. Are you kidding me? It's a blessing. It is a remarkable blessing that we have a community that is so tight with what we do. I mean, to have a gig like this, have a job like this for the past, I'm going on, I think this will be my 25th season with the Avalanche Center.
Nice.
I don't feel like I've ever gone to work a day in the past quarter century. And I mean, my day starts at 2:00, and it has for the past 20 years. I can't wait to get out of bed and go to work. And it starts without an alarm clock, although I do have a backup just in case.
Always have a backup.
I got to have the backup. And I can't wait to get to work, which is a satellite office, kind of in my office. But it speaks to not only a passion for what I do, but a passion for this community. And it's second to none, man. It's galaxies away from any other community. And so not only do I feel privileged, not only do I feel grateful, I mean, I am blessed like no other. It's remarkable.
It is, and I would, on behalf of a lot of the backcountry community, we're very grateful to have your eclectic character
I like
at times steering the ship.
I love the carefully chosen words. Thanks for that. But it's so effortless, and it's not only the public community, but it's also my professional community. Yeah. And there's so much remarkable support there, not only with the folks that I work with, but also the people I interface with. And it is so inviting, and it is so warm, and it is just it's a rad place to be, and plus it snows here, and if we look back, at last year and this year and where things are going weather-wise, one thing we can say is that we will never see a winter like last winter. It was truly historic. It was historic, and it was special because you had these meteorologic influencers that were very unique that we don't often see here. So the two sexiest words in meteorology, atmospheric river, all came together, and there's like 31 of them last year. And what this is this big conveyor belt of moisture. And, we'll see occasionally an atmospheric river that will just fire hose our zone. Tends to be heavier, denser snow, like really, really robust storms. The beauty of last year was these wave after wave after wave is coming on shore, sneaking in underneath the southern Sierra with its sights set on Utah, many of them crawling up Provo Canyon, slamming you guys here in Park City, super unique. And then maybe you get a little cold air embedded in that flow, and boom, you've got snow. And you've got some dense snow that comes in, but once that cold air weaves its way in, all of a sudden, that dense, spongy stuff, you get a little layer of light cream along the way. And then last year, as we really got into that flow, a lot of cold air, a lot of continuous storms, a lot of bottomless days, over the head, over the hood, in your face, remarkable stuff.
Yeah. It was a once in a lifetime season.
So it's sort of like, historic year. We're going to see big years. We're going to see big snow. But last year was like, we're hanging out in the living room, right? And there's a knock on the door. You open up the door, and it's like the Beatles are there. And they want to do a little living room show. And just as they're into a couple of songs of their first set, there's another knock on the door, and the Rolling Stones roll in. And so Keith and Mick are jamming with the Beatles. There's another knock on the door. Dave Grohl is in there. He's got this amazing mixing board that everybody's going to hook into. And then Springsteen shows up, and it is like the epic
ultimate party.
It is a party. It is an epic. It's historic. We will never see this again. And so all of those factors coming together, I hope everybody got in on that living room concert, because there will be other players, there will be other bands. But to have that special sauce come together the way it did, we'll probably never see that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
remarkable times,
it was
man.
remarkable. Yeah. That was a very good way to describe it. I liked your analogy there. Yeah.
Thanks. One of those crazy mornings when it's snowing 3-4 inches an hour and the canyons are closed, and I get a text from a media contact, and it's like 4:30 in the morning, and they're like, "Hey, are you up? Can you maybe meet us, at the mouth of Little Cottonwood Canyon?" I'm like, "Up, man! I'm ready to go. Yeah, tell me where and when." So we meet, and we're doing a live interview. And the person interviewing, she's like, "Wow, you seem like you have an awful lot of energy for this," and she's like, "Aren't you kind of fatigued, tired?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm fatigued, but I will never see another winter like this again. So I am embracing every dendrite. I'm looking at every piece of grapple. I am just taking in every face shot, because this is a time and a place in a lifetime that I want to preserve." And so, with that energy, it was like, we're sort of tired, but it is really remarkable. You got to embrace it. Indeed,
totally,
man.
Wow.
Well, and I hope you got in on some of that.
I did.
It wasn't just all work.
Yeah, it was the most free riding I've done in quite a few years, and some of the most, definitely the most POW days, and obviously the most POW days I've gotten at home. So it
remarkable.
Was remarkable. And I got to ask you, kind of, sort of coming to the end of things here. I'm sure your fingers on the pulse of weather year round.
Yeah.
And what would you forecast this season will be looking like for us? Is it too early to tell? Or are you, have there been certain indicators sticking out to you as to what things might look like?
This is a nice time of year to look at long-range patterns, to look at things that are going on right now and see how that might set the stage for the upcoming months. What I see right now, we're definitely in this little northwest flow pattern. So we get a little prefrontal, southwest, cold front, this one that's coming in right now, kind of as we speak, pretty robust out of Gulf of Alaska, kind of classic Utah, warm before the storm northwest flow, maybe even a little lake effect. And that seems to have been the pattern for the past couple of storms. I'm not a northwest flow kind of guy, because I think the party really starts at the beginning of the storm. And I love dense, spongy snow where everything is pasted white, the hazard is low, and you ski it if it's white. I like that kind of flow. Yeah, it gets crazy for a minute or two. Yeah, we see some avalanches, but the remarkable thing about a Utah snowpack, and probably the latitude that we're at, we have relatively warm temperatures here. Things heal pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. But the perfect scenario is that once it starts snowing, it doesn't stop. Now, the problem with northwest flow is that certain areas benefit, other areas can go dry. The one variable right now, we've got a strong El Nino, which of course means that we've got a really warm, ginormous body of water to help fuel things. Problem with that is that, that flow can often be 50-50 for us. So, I generally don't go to Vegas with those kind of odds, so I'm not going to bet the farm on the weather.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you though, sir, is that if we meet back here next year at this time, we'll know exactly what last winter did. And I bet you we could forecast it with nearly 100% accuracy.
I like those odds.
What I will say, man, is that there is always a place to go. Once it does start snowing, there's always this resource, UtahAvalancheCenter.org, to tap into so that we can help give you advice in the safe places to go and the places to avoid. quite frankly, I kind of like lean snow years because it really makes you think about the medium. It makes you hone your skills. It keeps you on your game. You know, a big snow year, anybody can ski powder. Anybody can ride powder. But those sort of middle of the road years, yeah, you got to be on your game. You got to be on your avalanche game. You definitely got to be thinking about it. But the most important thing, Nils, is that at the end of the day, I want everybody to go out, enjoy the greatest snow on earth, stay on top of the greatest snow on earth, get home to their families, high five each other, and really get to enjoy and embrace this amazing community. And I will put this out to you, I will put this out to the ethosphere, is that, you know, this is my passion, this is my jam, this is my love. I am never too busy to answer a question, to engage in a notion or a conversation, whether that is in a grocery store, at a summer concert. I don't mind that, wherever that is, on an up track, at a ski lift. This is our jam. This is our commitment. And I just want to say thank you so much for all the support that your organization has given the UAC over the years. Thanks to your entire crew, your entire team. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better.
Dude, of course. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. It's, you know, I've watched your videos and I'm familiar with you as an individual over the years, having ridden and operated out of Utah for a long time now. And it has been a true pleasure to sort of get some of your perspective down on the record and really get psyched for everyone's trajectories moving forward.
Right on, yeah. I appreciate that, and I'll look forward to catching up with you.
Yep.
As soon as our paths cross, but not our tracks. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
All right, my man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you like the show, make sure to comment, like, or subscribe. If you have any questions about anything Avalanche, make sure to go to
UtahAvalancheCenter.org. It's your one-stop shop for all things Avalanche.
And in the meantime, from the crew at Backcountry, we will see you out there.